School here in St. John's, Newfoundland.
And we are going to head on inside, talk to a bunch of awesome students from the school about mental health and how it's portrayed in the media.
Let's go!
It's going to be fun!
So, today we are all gathered. I'm going to start that again. So we're all going to be talking today about mental health and how it's portrayed in the media, because obviously television is such a huge medium today, and mental health is like a growing issue, so we get to talk about how it gets portrayed and if it gets portrayed effectively. So I guess we can start there. Like, do you guys think that mental health is shown effectively through media?
I don't think it is necessarily, because often the depictions we've seen are very one-sided. So a lot of times you'll see like the classic stereotype of like somebody with a mental illness being violent, or that sort of one. And oftentimes when we do talk about it, we kind of skirt around the main point of what we're trying to get across. So there's not enough like direct and open talk about it.
And I think there's like so many levels to it too that people can't, like, it's not something you can really portray in a show, because a lot of people say that in order to understand someone who's dealing with mental illness, you have to have gone through it yourself. So it's really difficult to, I think, to even portray it or to explain it to anyone, because just for that reason.
So a lot of times it's like in television it'll be like blatantly obvious that like a person is experiencing a problem.
Other times it's really hidden in real life. So I think that you needs to explore more like the digging into someone and finding them and really seeing what is going on beneath all the layers of someone appearing perfect.
These topics are so hard for a lot of people to understand, and I just feel like, I guess it is such a touchy subject, and I guess we are trying to remove the touchiness from it, but it still exists, so you need to deal with it at how it is right now.
It's a real personal thing, no matter what's happening externally.
So if that's the case, then do you think like TV should even try? Because like, how can you possibly capture someone's inner emotions when it's all, you're viewing it from the outside, because that's all TV is? So do you think there's anything that, you know, writers could do to like kind of show it in a better way, or show it in a more in-depth way without being like, everyone's to blame for my sadness?
Like, I think something that we can all agree on is that the only way to kill the stigma would be through like education and fighting the ignorance towards it, and I think that's a huge thing that it can be done through TV. But I do think it's a really difficult task, because as we said, that you need to, there's so much more just not outside, and it's a lot of it is on the inside. So I think a huge focus needs to go on making sure that that's done right, whether you do it through interior monologue or doing it through like, I don't even know, but like dreams or things like that.
Yeah, I would like, sorry, would you like to?
Go on.
I would really like to see like maybe like somewhere in the plot where we could sometimes, in like a show where we could kind of enter a person's mind and they could kind of like say aloud, like as if a narration. Even though that sounds kind of cheesy, but like I just mean as if it wasn't necessarily an outside view in. What if we had an inside view out? Like that kind of different perspective.
I would really like to see, because I feel like on TV shows and movies, you see, like, if there's mental illness with someone, it's always like, that's the plot, and that's like what they have to overcome. Like, I'd really like to see someone who's just like, it's something they deal with, and it's like all the totally normal, like, and like someone who just like takes their antidepressant in the morning and like goes to work, does her
tells
thing,
their friends, and they're like, okay,
they're like,
well,
oh, you had a bad day? Okay, well, tomorrow will be better. Like, just like, someone living through it and like being able to survive it.
Show like the other side of how it's like.
Like not having it drive someone's character, because you're more than your mental illness.
Yeah, like we should show.
There you go.
We have to show both sides.
Amazing.
But I think it does spark conversation, and I think through that, it's definitely a step in the right direction, and just focusing on having the right conversations is what we need to focus on now.
It gets people curious. If people see something that they don't know too much about, then they're going to ask their friends, like, hey, what do you know about this? And then
keeps going
it
on.
keeps going until people start to like look up stuff and learn about it.
I feel like a lot of times, like, if I get kind of like riled up, I'll go talk to my other friends about it. So I feel like that definitely gets the conversation going.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
We hear you guys have a mental health club here at the school, and you guys have mental health week coming up.
Diverted to Ava.
I'm the president of the mental health committee here at the school. And one of our biggest initiatives is every year we hold a mental health week. So during the week, we just want to provide like education, because the best way to end stigma is through education. So we talk about what mental illness is, what mental health is, because they are two very different things. And we talk about where you can go to seek help. Like, we have tons of different organizations come in and talk to our students. We have speakers. It's a week dedicated just to like activities to do with ending stigma and becoming more educated and on how to take care of ourselves.
Do you want to like expand on the difference between mental health and mental illness? Because I think that's really important.
Mental health is like just how we feel. Like everyone will feel anxious sometimes, and everyone will feel sad, and everyone will feel happy, and everyone will feel excited. Like our mental health is like just, it's how we feel, and then also down to the chemical balances in our brain. So everyone has a mental health, whether you're like, as just like everyone has a health physically, whether you're healthy or unhealthy, that's just the difference. A person who has a mental illness means that they don't necessarily have the perfect chemical balance in their brain, so it's probably off, and that's why they might feel certain ways or differences.
We're smiling because
Not many people get it.
yeah, and like it's nice to know that like people know that it's a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with you, it's just that you're a little different.
I have a question. So we talked about like how it's mostly a thing that goes on in someone's mind, and that it's very hard for people to reach out sometimes. How would you go about helping someone?
I think the first thing is just trying to be there for a friend, because all you can really do in your power is be there and support them as a friend. And as you know, you never really know what that person's feeling, so maybe if they can get to someone with higher training, then that person can help evaluate that. But the only thing that you can do is really support them as a friend and make sure that they have the help that they need around them, and just to know that they are loved and that they're worthy and they have a purpose on this earth.
And oftentimes it takes noticing like the little things, like little changes in people's behaviors, that because it won't necessarily be something really obvious, it might just be something really small, such as like, I don't know, they've become like a lot more fidgety, or they seem tired all the time. It can be something as small as that, and they're just kind of keeping it back. So the Mental Health Commission of Canada has a really good course. It's the Mental Health First Aid course. I took it last year, and it talks about like sometimes like you will, like your friends will be in like crisis or something, and it teaches you how to like deal with it and help them. So I would highly recommend that to anybody.
Didn't know that. That's really cool.
What's really important, or something that I try to always remember, is that what makes it so tricky with people with mental illness is that your own thoughts kind of become unreliable. Like, you can't really even trust yourself, and when you're talking to yourself and you're like, everyone hates me, I hate my life, like, that's really not the case, and like, it's just cognitive distortions. So, like, this is just a general rule of thumb I go by. Like, if you know someone is struggling, you just have to keep being there. And like, if they're having a really tough day and they're like, back off, like, you have to, but you can't let that discourage you forever, and like, you gotta like stick by them.
The really important thing is, if you know that your friend is going through something like this and you know that they're having a hard time, you need to push them to seek help. They might not want to hear that. They might want to, because a lot of times people want to believe that everything's okay even though they know it's not, but they don't want to admit it to themselves that they're not okay. So it is a difficult thing to do, to tell your friend, like, look, I know you're having a hard time and you have to go get help. But eventually, you would hope that they're going to listen to you, like, since you are, like, their friend and they know you care about them.
So, in Degrassi, we see Maya's character really struggle through anxiety and depression in the season 3.
Maya reaches out to her mom a couple times. She says, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, I've been sad for a really long time, and you know, it's terrifying, because like, how do you get out of your sadness? And her mom's like, okay, we'll get you help. And she does, and you know, Maya's trying, but at the same time, she overhears a conversation between her mom and her sister, and they're talking about how difficult it is to have her in the home, because like, it's so hard to constantly have to, you know, bring someone up and have to take care of someone. And Maya's response to that is, oh, I'm a burden, and she fakes being happy, and then that spirals into like her inevitable suicide attempt. So I guess my question is, what are your thoughts on reaching out to parents and the whole I'm a burden thing, how can we combat that as best we can?
Well, I definitely think there's a generational gap between us and parents, and that they don't always see as it is, saying like you can cure your mental illness by going for a walk, but
Yes, that is the only
Go
cure.
stand outside, get some fresh air.
but I think that's again based on ignorance towards the subject. If your child is bringing something to you saying, I'm having this issue, I need your help with it, then I think it's up to the parents to realize, I don't know enough about this, let me research it, go learn more, or have like free sessions where you can learn about this, because you never know what's going on in your child. Yes. And if you can create an open conversation through the parents and the children, then maybe that'll spark a conversation that you never would have had otherwise.
Yeah, education is definitely a really important thing, especially for parents. And here, actually, we do have a course for parents. It's like parenting your adolescent who has anxiety. And there's
The school is so fun.
yeah, like there's stuff here with the school, and this is also within like the city. I know people don't realize what kind of resources are available for people of all ages, and I think that's something that, because the word needs to get spread out there, because
I think that is the problem, that people don't know the resources are there.
that is the
You
problem.
like have a blimp that says
Yeah.
like resources available.
Yes, let's get a blimp. That sounds like a terrific idea.
So question,
Hey, everyone put in
how
20
do you take that first step? Because I know that it can be quite difficult to even say it out loud and to admit to yourself that you can't do this alone.
Well,
Toughie.
A little bit.
it is often really hard for the person themselves to do it. If you're looking to pick up on little signs that they're not okay and you're questioning them, it's going to be more likely that they're willing to open up to someone. But it's kind of hard to say what steps should someone take if they're experiencing this, because everybody experiences it differently, and telling somebody may not even be a thought in their head. It might be the exact opposite of what they're thinking. A lot of it is up to other people showing support for like the little things.
I love this group.
I know. I feel like there's like nothing that you guys don't know. Like,
know.
it's just all so
Which is so
wonderful.
surprising, because a lot of people that we even talk to have a very stereotypical or very clouded view on what mental illness, what mental health is, and how to go about it.
There was once a really funny thing online, and it was like, imagine if you said the things that you say to mentally ill people to people who are physically ill, and one of them was like someone who had like broken legs and arms, and the guy was like, have you tried getting out of bed? Or like, and then there was another one, and the person was like sick with like a flu, and he was like, have you tried not having the flu?
Yeah.
Like, it was so good at like depicting exactly how we speak to people. Like sometimes people will just assume it's like just a bad day, but like, I guess internally you have to like be aware of yourself and be like, okay, this has been 30 bad days in a row. It's time to make a change.
Make a change.
So, wonderful discussion. I guess in conclusion, what do you think that we can do as, young people to make sure that this stigma around mental illness and talking about it goes away, and that we can encourage people to come forward and talk about their experiences and get the conversation going?
I think we all know the word, and I think we should all say it at the same time.
1, 2, 3.
Education!
That was like so infomercial. Like, education.
But in all seriousness.
Yes, education, like making sure everyone knows what the actual definition of a mental illness is.
And that the people know that there's help available.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know that.
Also compassion,
And
Compassion
empathy.
is a great
empathy and
empathy.
compassion, like that. I feel like that stuff is kind of like slagged in society too, honestly, because that's like that should be part of education, how to be like respectful to people who are dealing with stuff, because sometimes that's not so clear.
I think even people who don't suffer from a mental illness can empathize with someone if they know that they have one, or if they don't, they can still empathize with what they're saying. Like, oh, I'm really stressed out for this test. Even if you're not, you can be like, hey man, it's gonna be okay. Like, I'm here for you, and just be a good person, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And
It's
everybody
really
has high points and low points in
Yeah.
their life. And you can, there's always things you can learn about how to deal with your stress that you're having better, and how to deal with your problems in healthy ways, so that they won't manifest to be more and they don't take like a greater toll on you when you are experiencing problems, because everybody will experience difficulties in their lives. So it's always important to be like educated on how to deal with them in a healthy way.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
I do. It's amazing.
Thank
You
all.
guys, you are amazing. Thanks for talking to
a
us.
wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
are-
us. This was great.
Yeah, you guys know your stuff. It's nice to know that there are people out there that know
There's
what's
hope,
going
man.
on. Yeah.
There's hope. Yeah, so yes, group hug. Yay!